The White House has made an urgent appeal to American lawmakers to approve more aid for Ukraine as the country is nearly out of time as agencies spend the last remaining funds from previous security packages. Jayne Codnita reports.
In a letter to House and Senate leaders and released publicly, White House's Office of Management and Budget Director Shalanda Young said that the U.S. will run out of funding to send weapons and assistance to Ukraine by the end of the year. Young said, and quotes, "I want to be clear, without congressional action, by the end of the year we will run out of resources to procure more weapons and equipment for Ukraine and to provide equipment from U.S. military stocks. There is no magical pot of funding available to meet this moment. We are out of money and nearly out of time. Cutting off the flow of U.S. weapons and equipment will kneecap Ukraine on the battlefield, not only putting at risk the gains Ukraine has made, but increasing the likelihood of Russian military victories." End of quote. According to Young, as of mid-November, the Pentagon has spent 97% of the $62.3 billion it received for Kyiv this 2023. Meanwhile, the U.S. State Department and U.S. Agency for International Development or USAID have used up all of the funds allocated. Young also warned that the economy of Ukraine could implode without the continued assistance of the United States, saying that Ukraine will not be able to keep fighting full stop in the event of a severe downturn. National Security Advisory Jake Sullivan meanwhile suggested that voting against aid for Ukraine was effectively voting to make it easier for Russia to succeed. Meanwhile, U.S. House Speaker Johnson, who took office in October, gave the White House letter a cool response. On Twitter, Johnson said, and quote, "The Biden administration has failed to substantively address any of my conference's legitimate concerns about the lack of a clear strategy in Ukraine." He also repeated the insistence of Republicans on tying any Ukraine aid to changes in U.S. policy over the southern border with Mexico amid the surging numbers of migrant arrivals there. It can be remembered that the U.S. has provided more than $110 billion in various types of assistance to Ukraine since the conflict with Russia broke out in February 2022. And now, U.S. lawmakers are wrangling over another round of aid. U.S. President Joe Biden has requested a spending package worth $106 billion to fund various priorities of his administration, and this includes providing military aid to Ukraine and Israel. Meanwhile, Ukraine has been desperately pushing for more Western support amid Russia's intensified attacks in the winter. It can be remembered that Russia had already declared that Ukraine's counteroffensive over the summer had failed. Reporting, this has been Jayne Codnita, SMNI News.